Hello, everybody. This is Rabbi Stephen, Rob Shmuel with you with this week's 10-minute Torah. So, not really saying Shabbat Shalom anymore because I'm recording these a little bit earlier in the week. And when people see them or when they're available, when these recordings, when these vlogs, video logs are available, it's sort of toward the middle or the beginning of the week. So, I thought I'd dispense with the Shabbat Shalom. And for those of you that see my newsletter, if you're receiving my newsletter by email, if you're part of the synagogue, Temple Shalom, or if you're part of the Jewish community of which I've been a part for many years, or you can always see it on the blog section of my website. You'll notice that the newsletters are going on at the beginning of the week, which from a Jew's point of view is really Sunday. That's Yom Rishon. So I thought I'd just say hello, and here's the week's portion. And it's really interesting because when does the new portion happen? So we're used to going, or most Jews are used to going to the shul, and for Shabbat, Saturday morning, we take out the Torah, we read the portion, and as far as most people are concerned, most Jews are concerned, that's when we have the portion. Actually, the portion changes after the morning or the Shachrit Shabbat service. So you're all aware that there are three daily services. There's the evening service, the morning, which is Mariv, the morning, which is Shachrit, and the afternoon, which is Mincha. So named, not Socharayim, Mincha, which means offering, because it coincides with the dusk or the afternoon / almost evening offering of the temple. And there are actually four standard Torah readings through the course of the week. Now, we're all familiar with the Shabbat reading, which is Saturday morning, but actually there's a Torah reading for the Saturday afternoon, the Shabbat Mincha service. And that's when you're reading from the portion, not the complete one, but there's only three readings. There's only three aliyot for Saturday afternoon and Monday morning and Thursday morning. And that is from the beginning of the Parsha that's going to be read on the following Shabbat or on that upcoming Shabbat. So the Saturday afternoon service was instituted by Ezra. He said, well, the Jews, they're here, they've got nothing else to do on Shabbat. Let's give them something to do so they don't desecrate Shabbat by doing a forbidden activity. Monday and Thursday, because in the Torah, the Jews didn't go through more than 3 days without coming upon a well. And also because Hashem and Moses felt that, we should be studying Torah at least every 3 days. So there's the illusion of water, mayim v'sason. Water is sort of a metaphor for Torah because it nourishes the body. Water nourishes the body, the Torah nourishes the soul. Those were also the days, Monday and Thursday, when people typically went into town to the market, and that's when you had a minyan. So there it is. Okay. So, in a sense, by coming out with these portions on Sunday morning or Yom Rishon Boker, we're setting you up. We're preparing you for that week's portion. So there it is. Okay. Shalach Lacha and some Chumashim. Shalach and other Chumashim, mostly the Art Scroll, Shalach, and Sansinu and Eitz Chaim, Shalach Lacha, respectively. Pick for yourself. God is telling Moses, if you want, and again, in the Torah, the verbiage is very economical. It doesn't go into a lot of detail. That God left that for us to discern, and that's kind of how we evolve. That's how we spiritually evolve, by delving into Torah and getting involved with the readings and the laws and all of God's commandments and God's teaching, really. The Torah means teaching. And interacting with that spiritually and with other people, and that's how we learn of God's will. And by learning of God's will, we evolve spiritually. So when God says to Moses, pick for yourself, what he's really saying is, if you want, I've told you that I'm going to carry you through the land. I've told you, you've seen how I have borne you on eagle's wings. I've taken you out of Egypt, out of slavery. I have fought the Egyptians for you. I've given you water. I've given you food. I've given you meat. I have sheltered you. I have protected you. If after all that you really want to know, you want to make sure that the land is good, the land of milk and honey, send some people in there to check it out and come on back. God was pretty confident that, you know, it would be a good deal. Moses wasn't. He knew the Israelites. He knew they were a stiff-necked people. And despite what God had done for the people, Moses knew that, these people just stiff-necked, stubborn. They clung to their ideology. They clung to their doubts. They did. So he takes Joshua aside and says, I'm going to change your name. I'm going to send one person out from each of the various tribes. And he said to the heads of the tribes, give me one person, one man from your tribe that can go out and reconnoiter the land. And he says to Joshua, I kind of don't trust these people, so I'm going to change your name. Now, in Judaism, we talk about Hashem, and we talk about the Yud Hey Vav Hey, the Tetragrammaton, as it's referred to, the four-letter, ineffable, unknowing name of God that we do not pronounce. In Judaism, the name is basically a very, very fine level, a fine material level of the essence of what that is. Your Hebrew name is an essence of who and what you are. When Adam went through the Garden of Eden and named everything that was in there, he named it according to what it was. This is why we don't take God's name in vain. It's also a tradition in very traditional, very fundamentalist Jewish circles that if your life is just a mess and you are doing everything you're supposed to be doing, you're obeying the commandments, you're being a good person, then what the sages said is you need to change your name. The name does not really fit who and what you are. And that's Kabbalah too. So his name was Hosea. Moses gave him a yud in front of his name, Yehoshua, so that the first part of his name would be a yud hey, which is another name for God, so that God would protect him. Why did he do that to Caleb? Caleb ben Nun. He was one of the 10 spies. Caleb was from the tribe of Judah, and Joshua was from the tribe of Ephraim. Caleb was very hardy. Caleb was kind of a warrior. Didn't need it. In fact, when the spies went into the land, when they went into the land of Canaan, when they interacted with the tribes, Caleb went right to Hebron, right to the cave of Machpelah to pray for strength. Because these people, Joshua, Moses, and Caleb, they knew who they were dealing with, despite all hope. So the question is, why send them at all? Okay? Because God says, look, I created you with free will. You do what you want, but you bear the consequences of those actions. And what were the consequences of those actions? Now, let's look at this in context of commandments. Back in Exodus, I believe it was chapter 13, because I looked it up. We got the commandment, do not join with others in committing a falsehood or an erroneous statement. In other words, don't bow to peer pressure and demean something or lie about something. Did the spies break that commandment? They came back from Canaan and they said, the land is challenging. It's going to be really tough. The people that are inhabiting it right now are very hardy. They're strong. We're never going to win a war. They've got giants there in the field. We've got giants. We're like grasshoppers. We saw ourselves as grasshoppers in their eyes as they probably did. That's the quote. They didn't think that they saw them as grasshoppers. They said, we're looking at them and we're thinking we must be grasshoppers in their eyes. This is not going to work. They were right. So was it a falsehood? No. But what they did was they presented it in a very negative way. They did it with the intent that we can't do this. And people started to panic. Not only did the spies have doubt, but so did everybody else, except for Joshua, Caleb, and Moses and Aaron. Joshua and Caleb are looking at each other telling these people, what are you talking about? This is the same God that, they started going on. People wouldn't hear of it. And God went to Moses and said, you know what? I've had it. I'm going to destroy them and make you a great people. And Moses said, don't do that. Moses did a little PR for God. He said, if you do that, people are going to look and say, look at this God that the Jews observe, which is everybody's God. We don't trust that God. God brought him out of slavery just to destroy him. And God said, okay, because of you, I'll let them live. But this generation, everybody over 20, everybody who's eligible for military age, for military service, they're not going to see the promised land. Their children will, because these people are not up to the task. People panic. They ran to Mount Sinai. They get decimated by the Amalekites. And game over. 40 years. The spies were in the land for 40 days. They came back, and God said a day for a year. So, okay, that's this week's portion. Shalach. We will see you in synagogue. Remember, I'll be away for a week with my wife, a much-needed vacation. And in advance, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for listening.